I'm in my tiny little rack trying to sleep, and I hear these weird noises, and I open my little curtain and I look, and what I saw that was coming down and going into my shoes, it was nasty. All right, today we're going to talk about what it's like to live on a Navy ship. Things that we do underway, what you can expect, like for your bed, your rack, your privacy, the work rotation, all the kind of stuff that goes along with basically being deployed on a super awesome warship. So I first went on to a warship, the mighty warship USS Howard, about 2006 after I finished my initial schooling in the Navy. Cool video about my first deployment. Find the link maybe down here in the description, maybe up here if I can figure that out. One of the places you'll see it. Talks about my first deployment, but checked on board of this destroyer, immediately deployed. So I went from my life that I was used to in Montana to pow, I now live on this fairly small ship with so many people out to sea, no place to go. So what are we going to talk about this video, right? We're going to cover the workspaces, like the offices, what they're like, the living spaces. That's going to be the berthing, the mess decks. That's where you eat, bathrooms, all the places where you're living. Talk about the watch. That's one of the things that you do, right? There's so many places on these ships that has to be manned 24/7. They break them into shifts, and they're called watches. Talk about drills. That's practice. We practice firefighting. We practice flooding. We practice all the things. Talk about what we do in the free time, your free time, my free time on the ship. Navy traditions, how that ties into living on a ship. Things that you do at the command for fun. And yeah, things that you do. There's a lot of cool stuff that only people deployed on a Navy ship are going to see or experience. Starting at the beginning of that list, right? We're going to talk about workspaces. So no matter what you do, there's going to be offices and spaces related to your job. Most of the time, especially on a destroyer, smaller boat. Now I've been on bigger boats as well. Offices are usually small, and there's definitely almost always not enough computers for everyone to have one. You just kind of got to wait your turn, or kind of push your way in to get a computer to do your work. But they're made for work, and they're also made for you to be comfortable while you're stuck on this tin can for months and months on end. So there'll be big TVs, gaming systems, couches, nice things to sit and be comfortable on. When I say comfortable, I'm not talking like your front room. It's still going to be like steel furniture with not comfortable cushions, and it's ugly because it's all industrial on a ship. But at least you get to sit, right? That's nice. So every division or group of people that work on one thing, have a certain skill, are going to have usually a couple offices, a couple spaces. So if you go into one that's crowded, there's no computers, you can usually go to another one, maybe find a computer, maybe find, I don't know, a random pull-up bar that's been installed. So while you wait for a computer, you bust out some pull-ups or upside down sit-ups. I don't know what's happening anymore. Yeah. Your watches. Speaking of work, one of the things that you do is watch. So you have a work day, which is like you think, right? 9 to 5. It usually starts a little earlier and goes a little later. But you also have these watches. If you stand a watch that day, that doesn't mean you don't have to work, right? So if you work, we're just going to stick with the 9 to 5 thing because that's easy. You work 9 to 5, you may still have a watch that starts about 5 and goes to later at night. Or you'll have a watch that starts at midnight and goes to breakfast time, right? Doesn't mean you can go to bed afterwards. You start your work after your watch and you work your regular day and stand your next watch, whenever that would be. The watches do normally rotate. Not always. You might have the same watch every day. But more often than not, it's going to change. So you would have the breakfast to lunch one day. The next day you'd have the lunch to dinner. Day after that you'd have the dinner to midnight, and then the midnight to breakfast, and the breakfast to lunch, and the cycle continues, right? So your sleep schedule is going to be a little bit out of whack, to say the least. But It's not too bad. Some of the watches you stay very busy and have to be on your toes all the time. Other watches, it's not so much. One of the watches I stood when I was pretty junior, it was literally just me chilling, waiting for a phone call. So I'd like do Microsoft Paint and do all like weird. This is back in the day, Microsoft Paint, but I would change pictures like pixel by pixel and blend them just perfectly. The intro to all my videos has an example of that. I think. Uh, You'll see it. It's a picture of me, but there's like 100 me's standing there. I did that on watch when I was a very junior sailor. Pixel by pixel, baby. Boom. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's that. Sometimes driving the ship is a watch, right? Man and a gun would be a watch. There's all different kinds of watches, and they're different intensities. Moving on, drills. Oh, this is gonna be a long one because I talked too much. Drills. So you practice everything. The big things that you practice are damage control. Damage control is basically keeping the ship from sinking or burning down. That's important. Why? Because you're on a ship. You don't have any place to run to or anyone to save you because you're all by yourself in the middle of the ocean, which is very big, actually. If you haven't been on the ocean, it's huge. There's not a lot of people out there close enough to come save you. So you practice fighting fires. Doing this is very fun. It also sucks a lot. Put on the full firefighting equipment, or FFE, with the air tank called SCBA. You go down in these spaces that are like 110 degrees. They usually have them filled with fake smoke, so you can't see anything. You're on catwalks. You could fall to your demise into the bilges. Not really. It's safer than what I'm making it sound like, but and you're just fake fighting fake fires in the blind heat, just sweating everything, miserable, but it's awesome at the same time. Unless sometimes I'll do them in the middle of the night. That's less awesome because you already don't have a good sleep schedule and are overworked. And then you're not sleeping again because you have to fake fight fake fires in hot, can't see spaces. Deflooding, right? If there's a hole in the hole, you try to patch the hole. Different ways to do that. Then you have to dewater, get all the water out. Blah 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 blah. As I've said before, I'm an electronics technician. We even drill on electronic casualties, like a radar will go down, something like that, and you have to go through the steps of how to restore it. There's one on the bridge, right, where all the important people are. They're driving. The captain's up there, and the other people that get paid way more than I ever will are all up there, and they have these big, it's like a radar display, but they're old. And they're it's a whole inside from top to bottom. You can crack it open at different levels, and it's just filled with circuit cards, right? So one of those actually caught on fire one time, and I was the one that responded. I ran up there, the fire extinguisher, put it in, right? You have these big electrical gloves and a face shield and all this stuff to keep me safe up to like 10,000 volts. And I open the unit. I'm like reached in there, and I'm like up to my face in radar display electronics. Everyone's watching. They're like, "Oh, can he do it? Is he safe? What's gonna happen? I don't know." Right? And I like to make things a little bit more fun. So while I'm in there, I go, "Oh, that was not smart." Everyone freaked out. They got so mad. There's a rate called a QM, a quartermaster. They kind of plot where we're going to go and do these bridgy nautical things. And there was a crusty old quartermaster senior chief up there, and she gave me the most intense ass chewing I have had probably in my whole Navy career. Was it still funny? Yes, it was. But don't do that if you're ever arms deep in electronics on a Navy ship. Anyway, moving on. So, drills. You drill. You drill, you work, whatever your job is, right? Your day to day is going to be that. Electronics technician, tons of electronics on the ship. You're doing maintenance on those, making sure everything's good to go and preventing them from breaking, or if you have broken stuff, you're fixing them. Free time. Do you have free time? Yeah, you do. Sundays, you'll have to stand your watch on Sunday, but they call it holiday routine. They also do for most federal holidays if it's feasible. But holiday routine is just your time. You do what you want. You have to stand your watch, like I said, but other than that, you do what you want. That's usually when I would like do my laundry, get things adjust to get ready for the next week, but also chill, play video games, hang out with people, exercise. Um, it's usually, like I said, Sundays, federal holidays. A normal day, you would work a very long day, like underway, probably 12 hours. And then if your watch fell outside of that 12 hours, then you would also do your watch. By the time all of that's done, you're exhausted and you just want to go to bed. There are meals in there somewhere, sometimes. I mean, there's always meals. It just, I never didn't always get to go. The food, let's talk about the food, right? It's not that bad most of the time. Sometimes it's not at all good, and I would rather not eat. But other times it was amazing. Some of the best food you ever had, right? I was on a boat that was half Navy, half civilians, and the civilians made the food. I was so much better than when the Navy. You're just gonna stop. It was really good. All right, so you have that holiday routines called. That's your free time. Sometimes the work schedule would get really, really slow, especially for rates like my own. You don't always have maintenance to do. You don't always have things to fix. You are still technically working for that big chunk of the day, but you don't really have anything to do. So, yeah, you could call that free time, but it's not. But it is what it is. But you do all kinds of stuff, right? You have play video games, you play card games, there's TVs, there's always movies playing. The Navy will often get movies before they're released, sent to the ship, and they play them from the crew. It's one of the perks of being military. You get to watch movies before they're out if you're deployed. There's every boat usually will have a gym. Not every boat, but most boats will have a gym. Some of them are very, very, very nice. So you can work out. More often than not, if you have free time, you're going to get some extra sleep in there because you don't sleep a lot. They have what's called a fan room. I don't know. It's just a room, right? But some boats, specifically a destroyer, there's one. If you ever see me, I'll try to describe where it's at. But it's like an Inception room, right? You've seen Inception. They go into a dream, but in the dream they can go into another dream. There's like all these levels of Inception. They have like Inception fan rooms. Like you go into a fan room, then you crawl under some equipment, and there's a little door that goes into another fan room. Like shimmy in there, right? And then from there, there'll be another door into another fan room. Now you're 3, 4 levels deep. No one's gonna find you. You just go to sleep. Just remember to wake up before they're gonna be looking for you again, because they will call man overboard if you don't show up and they can't find you because you're in the Inception fan room. So caution there. Speaking of man overboard, talked about that in the other video, which should be down in the description, hopefully, or floating around. But someone falls overboard, basically, ship's going to turn around. If someone's going to spot it, they're going to muster everyone, make sure everyone, find out who's overboard. Ship turns around. They put their little boats in the water. If there's helos on board, they'll go out, find the person, recover them, bring them back. Everything's good. But it's a big deal because we don't like to lose people. I say a lot. I'm working on it. I'm going to work on it. Traditions. So when you cross the equator, right? A human being, a person, a sailor, if you will transition from the disgusting polywog, which is what you are if you've never crossed the equator on a vessel of the sea, and then you are transformed through a process into a shellback, an honorable shellback. It's very level of high esteem. There's levels above that, if you can believe it or not. But it's about a 24-hour process to get there. Not a lot of sleep. There is a lot of funny smells, and different kinds of exercises that you complete to become shellback at the final ceremony with none other than King Neptune. So, super fun, super awesome, great experience to do. And then later, once you become a shellback, then you can help the other nasty polywogs become shellbacks too, right? There's a facilitator of the traditions. There's special traditions when you are promoted, to make sure that your new pay grade does not fly away. there's a lot of stuff. Navy has a ton of traditions, especially when you're underway. You get to partake in a lot of these. Don't have to if you don't want to. Highly recommend it. They're very fun, very meaningful. The command also does a lot of fun things just to keep spirits up. Right? They do Steel Beach picnic. Huge barbecues. Senior people cook up delicious barbecue food, serve it. Everyone's chilling. There's music, karaoke, golfing off the back, fishing off the back. I was on a ship for a while where they did smokers, right, boxing matches, and leading up to that, throughout the week, you could vote for which fight you wanted to see, who you wanted to box each other, and then bet money, kind of, on the winner. Now, all the proceeds, you didn't win the money. All the proceeds from these bets would go to an organization called MWR, which helps fund things. So it's not betting, it's donations. But they do air shows. Like if you're around a carrier or something, a lot of aircraft, they'll put on air shows for you, which is amazing. Definitely have a good story about that in another video. Check it out. Description, baby. Tiger cruises, like on your way back, you pull over. If you're going back to like San Diego, right, you pull over to Hawaii, you'll stop in Hawaii, and you have the opportunity to bring family members or friends on board, and they can actually ride the ship and help you do your work or watch you do your work on the trip back to San Diego. They get to fire all the small arms guns. They get to see usually an air show, like I was talking about. All kinds of cool stuff that they do. They would do special maneuvers so they can see how cool the boat is, the ship. Definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity for people that aren't in the Navy. All right, so 4th of July, New Year's, they'll do fireworks, right? That's when they fire all the guns. There's a 5-inch. There's the Sea Whiz. If you don't know what that is, you should look it up. It fires like 1,500 rounds a minute. It's amazing. But all the guns, they shoot them into the dark sky, and those are our fireworks, and that's awesome. Swim call. You jump off the boat and swim. I've done in the Marianas Trench, deepest part of the ocean in the world. I swam there. Not a big deal. They have, just so you know how dangerous it is, right? They got people on 50 cal machine guns to keep you safe from sharks. I've done that. So, a lot of cool things to do while you're underway on the ship. So let's talk about living spaces, right? Enlisted people, like myself, you get a rack. It's a small bunk bed. Mine on the boat, usually the more senior you are as enlisted, longer you've been on the boat, the more likely you are to have a top rack. Like the in-between people will have a medium rack or a middle rack, and then the very junior people who just got there, like I was, will get that bottom rack. And from my mattress, and this was for bottom and middle, was true, from the mattress to the top of the rack was the length of my elbow to these knuckles. That's how much room I had. And I used to work out back then with the weights, and there was muscle where there's not really muscle now, but I was bigger. And to roll over, I had to roll my shoulders in to be sideways, which is how I sleep, by the way, in the rack, right? So there's not a lot of space, but you can lift it up. It's called the coffin rack. You can lift it up, put clothes down there. There's a ton of room underneath your bed. You also get a stand up where you can hang your pretties up in there. So you don't have a lot of space, but it is cozy. It does become like your spot. I had like a PSP stuck to the roof of mine. I could stick it up there and watch movies. Later, when I made more money, I got a Zune. Yeah, the big Zune. Missed that thing. But you make it your own. Pictures, electronics, things. The destroyers had a fan built in the rack. They had a plug in. There's a light. It's your own little tiny box with a curtain to shut you off from everybody else. Heads are communal heads, right? There's showers. There are curtains. Heads. My bad. Bathrooms. Be multiple toilets. Males will have the urinals, showers, sinks all next to each other. It's like a high school gym bathroom, I guess. Only more stainless steel that we do our best to stain. Clean all of that every day. It gets inspected. Super gross story. When I was real junior, I had a senior chief come in and he was inspecting the bathrooms. He took his non-gloved finger wiped it on the bottom lip of the urinal, came up with this kind of nasty yellow crystally gel, flipped that on the floor, and failed our birthing. That was gross. That wasn't real, by the way. I didn't throw it. Anyway, what are we talking about? Yep, officers. If you go officer, right, go to the academy or whatnot, you get a stateroom. You junior cats do that. We'll have to share your stateroom with someone else. Both get a bed. Usually both get some kind of desky, like a IKEA metal fold-up Japanese tiny apartment type of desk. The luckier people will have a sink, and there'll be shared bathrooms for those as well. Those are way nicer. Whatever, you do you. There's lounges in a lot of the berthings. You can chill. There'll be like a table or a TV. I don't know. I didn't hang out there. I hung out in the spaces. And so speaking of racks and being on the bottom rack as I was a junior, like I was talking about in the beginning, I woke up one morning and I hear this like pat, 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 pat. I'm like, what the hell? I opened my curtain to see the dude that slept above me was vomiting. His vomit was coming down and kindly filling up my shoes that I had sitting on the floor there, and his shoes and somebody else's shoes. So I shut that curtain, rolled to the other side of the rack, and waited it out, right? And the dude was super cool. Once he was able to, he got up, cleaned everything up, cleaned our shoes up real nice. If I didn't see it happen, I probably never would have known, other than my shoes were wet after he had cleaned them. Because I'm telling you, I hid in my corner for a while. I must have fell back asleep because it was a minute. But clean shoes or not, I didn't wear them things, not ever again. I helped them. They're probably swimming somewhere with the fish now in that same ocean. But that's it. It's a very unique lifestyle. It's really cool. It's really sucky. It's really awesome. It's really sad. It's really happy. I don't know. It's a complete. It messes with your senses and your emotions, and you'll love it and hate it, and you will forever. You will forever feel that love-hate about that experience forever and ever. But only a tiny percentage of people do it. There are things that you will see on a boat that you will see nowhere else, and that's you are one of very few people who has been able to see and experience that stuff. So, recommend it. I don't know. You choose how long you do it for, right? Speaking of that, I'm gonna be done doing this. I'm choosing to not do this for any longer tonight, today, tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. But bye.